Hey everybody, Nate Carter here with today's Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. I once knew a guy who was a real cheapskate. He acted as if he had grown up in the Great Depression, and he hadn't. But the way that he lived his life was just pinching every penny. And one of the things that he used to do with his family, he told us, was that when they were eating a meal together, and they had this contest to see who could. They have a bowl of pears. Who could eat the most fruit off of the pear and have the least amount left over? And so it turns out you can eat everything except for the little stem at the top and the kind of the seed area at the bottom, and you can really eat everything else if you want to. But what I love about Scripture is that it's kind of like that. That if you want to, you can glean so much out of just a little section of Scripture, and that's what happened to me today as I was reading in 1 Timothy chapter 1. I just started reading this today. It's written by Paul to Timothy, who is a young leader in the early church movement. And so Paul is just imparting his wisdom to Timothy. And in verse 5, this is the little phrase that just stood out to me that I just gleaned so much from. He says, "Be filled with love that comes from a pure heart, a clear conscience, and genuine faith." Now, Paul is saying this in the context of steering clear of what some people are doing with their teaching. And he talks about that in verse 4. He talks about how some teachers waste their time in endless discussion of myths and spiritual pedigrees. These things only lead to meaningless speculations, which don't help people live a life of faith in God. So Paul's saying, guys, this is all about helping your people develop a life of faith in God, and if you're spending your time just in endless kind of minutia and speculations and debate about things that don't really matter, then you're missing the whole point. And Paul's saying to Timothy, don't be like that. Don't be the kind of leader that leads like that, but always rather keep the main thing in front of you. And the main thing is in verse 5, to be filled with love. To be filled with love, because love is of God. God is love that comes from three things: a pure heart. And to me, as I read that, I translate that, no ulterior motives. It's a love that is pure, that just honors God above all else, that has no ulterior motives. It wants nothing in return. It's not selfish or self-serving. But it's just pure, just the way that God is. Secondly, a clear conscience. And that tells me, you know what, we need to rid ourselves of the sin in our lives. If we're walking through life with heavy consciences that are burdened down with the sin that we know we're invested in, that's no way to live. That's no way to follow the Lord. That's no way to live the life that God wanted us to live. So live with a clear conscience by ridding yourself of the sin that's in your life. And lastly, and a genuine faith. A genuine faith meaning there's more to this life than what we bring to the table. We have faith in what God is doing. We have faith that we are part of a greater plan of building a kingdom that is not our own and that is not of this world, but rather is one that Jesus is building. And we have faith that Jesus has a specific job for us to do in that, but that he's doing the great work of building his kingdom. And he just asks us to come alongside with him. So guys, I just want to encourage you that when it comes down to it, this is a wonderful little nugget of Scripture that you can just take and you can just kind of suck all the goodness out of it and let it speak into your life. And so let me say this as a benediction to you. Be filled with love that comes from a pure heart, a clear conscience, and genuine faith. God bless you. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.